Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm here with a quick video on the ending of Oedipus, things that hopefully you picked up on. Sorry that my cat is scratching a cat scratcher in the background, but we'll just keep on going. So the big theme in Oedipus, of course, is what we talked about before. It's this idea of free will versus fate. And we talked about how the ancient Greeks really believed in fate. Of course, we had all of the prophecies. They believed that the gods and goddesses could interact with the human world and change things for you. But overall, they believed your destiny was written in the stars and you couldn't change it. So the question we have to ask with Sophocles' version of Oedipus, was he promoting that idea of fate and prophecy, or was he challenging it? Was he saying that people had free choice? You could find evidence to argue both sides. You could say that Oedipus, no matter what he did, or no matter what Jocasta tried to talk him out of, he still had the same fate. She tries to talk him out of chasing down this prophecy. She wants to kind of stay blind to it, encourages Oedipus to stop the search. But regardless, the play ends, of course, with him finding out the prophecy, with Jocasta killing herself, and with him gouging his eyes out. Terrible fate. And really, we could argue that nothing he would have done would have stopped that. It already was kind of written for him. It was his fate. We could argue, though, that Oedipus did exercise some free choice or free will. He was the one that made the decision to go looking for the murderer of King Laius. He was the one that saw that through, and he also at the end is the one who chooses to react to it the way he does by gouging his own eyes out. So there could be evidence for both sides, and we could also pull some quotes from the text about what Sophocles believed. Speaking of the ending, where Oedipus blinds himself, we really need to talk about that because it's another theme in this play, this idea of blindness versus sight and what that means. Hopefully you picked up on the kind of interesting idea that Tiresias is a blind prophet, so he can't physically see the world around him, but he sees the truth and he can see things that Oedipus can't. And so it's really not a coincidence that at the end Oedipus gouges his own eyes out because he realizes he hasn't been seeing the truth, and he realizes he's been blind already to what was right in front of him, this horrible fate. So that is one of the other aspects of the play. Another theme is that power corrupts. We see that certainly with Oedipus. We talked about how he was very haughty at the beginning, how he really just took that power to his head, and we see that play out and really become his downfall, how even the mighty can fall, how no one is immune to fate or to, reckless choices. Okay, so we see that with Creon, who at the beginning we know as Oedipus's brother-in-law, but by the end we realize that's also his uncle. We see Creon really taking power at the end. We are going to see more of that power corrupting in Antigone, which is the other play in this trilogy. We also, hear more about the legend of Oedipus and how that all came to be. We realize that Oedipus was sent away when his mother learned of this horrible prophecy. They sent him away to die. They dropped him off in the woods. But a shepherd found him in the mountains and delivers him to King Polybus, who adopts him as his own. So when Oedipus finds out Polybus, his father, has died, he feels like, you know what, like this is okay. Obviously, I didn't kill my father. This prophecy is not about me. And then, of course, quickly he realizes that Polybus was his adopted father, and oh no, the prophecy is still true. We see throughout the play, too, Jocasta begging him to ignore the prophecy. Again, going back to that idea of sight versus blindness, she prefers to say blind to the truth. And we could talk about, is that a good thing? Is that beneficial? How could that have turned out differently for Oedipus? We also see how people, once they find out the prophecy, they turn on Oedipus. So again, it supports that idea that, even the mighty can fall and that power is not infinite. That power can change on a whim. There's a quote in this play near the end that kind of supports that. It says, "Is there a man more agonized, more wed to pain and frenzy? O Oedipus, a name for the ages." So that really promotes this idea that, his fate was considered the worst of mankind during this time period, and certainly during our time period. Most people find the story to be disturbing and weird. The fact that he marries his mother and has children with her, and it's just very taboo even today. So that's, really part of the reason it still stays classic. We could talk about the changes in Oedipus too, that at the beginning of the play, he's really seen as a hero for solving the riddle of the Sphinx. By the middle, he almost becomes a villain. You know, when we realize what he's done, that he's killed his own father, he becomes the villain and he becomes his own worst enemy. At the end, there's a sense of pity for him when he becomes the victim. You know, when he's exiled and he gouges his own eyes out and Creon becomes the new leader. We see this idea of shame and guilt becoming a theme near the end as well. So Oedipus has two daughters, Ismene and Antigone. We're going to see both of those characters again in the play Antigone that we'll read before the end of the year. And we see how, you know, this prophecy coming true and Oedipus being exiled, that shame and guilt is something that's carried with his daughters, Ismene and Antigone. So they're really victims of Oedipus's choices and his fate, whichever you kind of go with. We also see female weakness in the play, how none of the females really have any power, of course. Jocasta really begs Oedipus not to carry through this prophecy. He ignores her, and we see by the end that she ends up committing suicide because she can't handle the truth of the prophecy. We also see Antigone and Ismene as just kind of victims. They're just kind of along for the ride of this crazy story. They don't have any power. They don't have any say. These kind of ideas of females being portrayed as weak, again, will be important because that'll come up again in Antigone. All right, so hopefully that gives you just a few ideas of the themes in the play. What you're going to do now is head over to the discussion questions and answer those, and you have a Flipgrid question to video and your response to. Since you watched this video and you made it to the end, here is your reward. For the discussion questions, I believe there are 10 of them, you may pick 2 to skip. So you can skip 2 of the 10 discussion questions in the spot where you would put your answer. Just write, watched the video. You could write, watch the awesome video if you want some brownie points. But anyway, just put that in the comments for 2 of the questions, and then you'll be exempt from those. So pick your 2 least favorite questions that you don't feel like answering. All right, I hope you're all doing well. We are going to be having a quiz on Oedipus coming up, so please make sure if you didn't read, shame on you. Get caught up, get that reading done. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Have a good day.